We are here today to talk to Terhi. A lot of people have probably seen her, from earlier, maybe her keynote. We were also actually supposed to have Clay Dumas, who is a partner at Lowercase Capital. And unfortunately, he might be having technical difficulties. So I'm not sure if he's going to join us today, Terhi. So I think we're going to have to wing this on our own and do what we can. Maybe we turn this into a bit of a fireside chat.
So yeah, and let's see if he pops in at certain point. But we'll adapt. This is one of the learnings of this year, so we'll just have to adapt to whatever comes to us.
Have to adapt. So the title of the session today is Energy Transition Opportunities. So Clay was actually going to talk about some very interesting tech, such as fusion, hydrogen, and some other sources that are closer than people might think today. But maybe what we could do, Terhi, is let's talk a bit about let's introduce ourselves first of all, so everybody knows who we are. So my name is Tanya Horowitz, and I'm a moderator today. I'm a partner at Butterfly Ventures, the leading seed stage deep tech investor in the Nordics. So just a little bit more about us. We have 84 companies and 3 funds, and are raising Fund 4 right now, currently, to be able to continue investing in great science-based deep tech teams across the Nordics and Baltics. We're a value-added investor, as we invest quite early in the seed stage, but can also follow through to Series A. And so, Terhi, why don't you give a little bit about yourself and what you're doing at Helen Ventures, and then we can start our conversation.
Sounds great. So my name is Terhi Vapola, and I'm heading Helen Ventures, which is the venture arm of Helen, the energy company here in Finland. We focus on the early stage investing in the startups which are exactly working in this space. So looking at the transforming the energy sector and bringing up new tech into that sector. I'm a great believer that tech can help us save the world. So finding up the solutions is of course what excites me most about what we are doing on our daily basis. So what we do is in terms of the investments, we focus on the early phase, so ticket size 300,000 to 3 million range. And going from as early as seed and as late as Series B, more or less in multi-stage, and focusing on the startups all across Europe plus Israel. So that's our geographic focus.
Interesting. I didn't know about Israel. That's very cool. I'm assuming they have some really interesting, energy technologies over there as well. So.
Yeah. Yes.
So maybe I find it interesting, as you guys invest as early as seed. So maybe, especially in the newer digital technologies that are coming out, maybe that gives a better reason to be able to feel more comfortable investing in an earlier stage, as opposed to, some of the older legacy, hardware, when energy was more hardware related. Maybe you could talk a little bit about that and what you look at in startups, with respect to that.
So typically, if you think about the CVC type of players who are associated with the being the investment arm of corporate, typically the focus is later. So you would normally have the phase of like a Series B onwards. That would be the typical phase. However, we believe that in the energy sector, the need of the transformation and where we are in terms of the industry requires us to be more forward-looking, and to be able to go into the earlier stage and help those transformations to take place. So from that perspective, with our industry know-how and our capabilities to support not only with the money and the know-how, but also with the direct linkages into supporting the pilots or go-to-market activities with the mother company, and this kind of tasks where we see that, for example, you have a need in the market, and when we see it and there's a solution for that, so we also see that we can accelerate the speed of the development in the market by combining the forces.
Mm-hmm. And is it a prerequisite that that the corporate side of the business unit has a need, for that technology?
No. So we see that there needs to be a strategic reason, and the strategic reason is to work on the transformation of the energy sector. So
Okay.
it could be supporting with the role of providing the go-to-market opportunities, but it could as well be innovative motives. So looking at the capabilities to bring something new into the market, which is different to what the know-how of the mother company would be, and most importantly, thinking of disruption in the market. So something which happens in the market and be more prepared to that. So all of these are linking into being able to get the insights in the market, what happens in the market. So then you need to be able to be more agile and more independent in terms of the decision making.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Interesting. And I mean, kind of following along with what Clay was supposed to talk about. I don't know if you're able to talk about fusion or hydrogen, but if you're not, maybe we can focus on what maybe you're seeing. That's coming forth, new technologies, anything that you could elaborate a little bit further on that you're seeing in your deal flow, or maybe in examples of companies you've invested in. I think our audience would be perhaps very interested to see, especially from your perspective, what's interesting in this market today.
So what we do see is a lot of this new tech happening. So like looking at the fusion or looking at the small nuclear reactors, the capabilities to go into bringing something where, if you think about the renewables, the challenge with the renewables is that they're dependent on the weather. So if it is not sunny or if it's not windy, what do you do in those situations? So you still need to be able to provide people with the energy, and that's kind of a fundamental need what we are used to already, so that we get our PCs powered up or we get the warmth into the houses and so forth. So you need to have solutions which look at this. So of course they are bigger, you could say more, and in terms of ultimately transformative technologies which are being developed and which happens in the market. Then at the same time, if you think about what's happening in the smaller scale, so you think about the impact of the digital. So what we see happening is that it's not the one tech which can save the world, if you may, but it's more of the combination of the little things which makes a difference. So thinking of like, if you think about like more distributed, decentralized production methods, where you start to have not only the renewables, but you also look at the side streams, and you look at the capabilities of using maybe the car batteries, which are in the EVs in the future, or you look at the different means of limiting the demand so that it matches with the supply. So these kind of elements which make the none of them is going to be able to solve the whole thing, but and then you have the tech like thinking of for example different kind of heat pumps or water, like using the seawater heat to heating or this kind of technology. So they are or using the like data centers which are heating the air and the water and using that to heat the houses. So you have this kind of side streams which you also can be able to look. And obviously none of these are going to be as transformative as the
Oh, I think we might have lost Terhi. Oh,
let's see how long I was away. So
no,
maybe
you only popped out for literally 5 seconds. So,
but just to summarize the thought, so what I'm saying is that what I believe what's going to happen in the future is more to do with the solution of multiple different kinds of technologies which we need to take advantage of, so that we can transform the energy into being in the decarbonized world. So it's not just one silver bullet which could solve us all, but it's going to be a lot of smaller things. And when we look at these kind of smaller things, they are, of course, especially when they are linked into the digital capabilities of optimizing and saving energy and so forth. Obviously, the startups can play a very important role to help us find those solutions.
Mm-hmm. And what about industry? I mean, what are some of the solutions you're seeing kind of, maybe from the energy perspective? I mean, I have a company we've invested in Norway that does predictive maintenance for heavy industry, basically process industries.
Yeah.
And basically it's a data crunch, and being able to predict when a particular machine or part of a machine will go down, obviously saving a lot of time efficiency, but also energy consumption. It's a lot of the different, I see a lot of direct and indirect technologies that are saving energy, and that's what we're hearing about obviously all day, every day, is greenhouse emissions, reduction of that, decarbonization. Maybe you could talk a little bit about what you're seeing from an industrial perspective, because I definitely am starting to see that area of in my world, bringing some digital technologies to bear.
Yeah, so I see a lot of this energy efficiency companies, especially in the startups. There are quite a lot of them in the market, and then we also see companies addressing the demand response. So how do you manage when the demand and supply are not in balance, and what you do in those areas? So this is certainly a very interesting area to look at where the future opportunities could lie. Of course, we are talking about something which is quite early in the, if you think about in terms of how big the market is, or how attractive, how quickly it grows, how easy is it to grow. So it's not the easiest area to address, especially if you want to have highly scalable or fast growing company to go into. So many of these markets are still very much at nascent state. So we all see the vision that this is going to be the future, but it's still the question of how do you find the path and a profitable path to get in there. So that's one perspective. And then what I think you're also referring to is looking at how can we look at the optimization. So using the AI to solve some of the issues. So like if you think about the industrial like IoT capabilities and the capabilities to use that to be more like you're not wasting the energy. So you're minimizing the use and you're not using any more, so that you can use more with the AI, the capabilities to be more granular and to be able to manage the more complex logics in the networks can help us, make a difference in terms of saving. So maybe an example from our portfolio, the company called Gradient from Holland, which is working on the AI for district heating. So looking at the water temperatures. So when you think about the district heating network, what it is all about is basically the pipes which transform the hot water to houses to keep them warm. And then how do you make sure that in a big network like that, each house is going to be warm, and the network is complex in terms of model. So with the AI, it's a perfect tool to address this kind of problems, so that you can model the complexity of the network and make sure that the last house also gets heated properly and is in the right temperatures, and still like lower the temperatures of what you're actually feeding the water in, which helps you not only to save the energy, but of course the bottom line impact on the players. But then every time you save the energy, of course you're saving the decarbon. So you are supporting and building up towards the more like sustainable environment as such at the same time.
Absolutely. No, that's very, very interesting. I was gonna bring in the thought process about data and AI,
Yeah,
and what
yeah,
does that bring to the world of digital energy? And
yeah,
I think that everything from the example of the predictive maintenance to the water
yeah.
heating example that you just and then inclusive of another company we have. It seems to be all of our companies in Norway are have something to do with energy. Gee, I wonder why.
Exactly.
But another one of our companies is looking at how to analyze snow and the layers in the snow and how it uh, might translate into for hydropower companies into melt when the snow finally melts, obviously, and how to predict the volume that you might
Mm,
see from that snow melt.
yeah, exactly.
I've I'm no expert in hydropower, but from what I understand, this has been a problem over many years. Is to actually how do you predict this? And I guess going,
Mm,
what the feedstock is, which is of course the layers of the snow, maybe
mm,
then predict then how much water that hydropower company, and then of course how much power you get from that.
yeah,
Um,
yeah.
for the
And
next season.
And it's a very good example of the use of the AI, because if you think about the complexity of that, so you have vast areas of mountain area, which is not like you have like it's
Up and down.
going it's
Yeah.
up and down. You have hills and you have rocks and everything. And thinking of the snow which falls into in layers, so not all at the same time, but different days, different times, different water density in them, and then in the layers. So it's a complex area to map. So AI is a very good tool to then address and what impact it has. So looking at this kind of tech, when you can be able to predict more how much water there is, then you can be able to manage
Yep.
the hydropower plants more efficiently, because you know how much water you are expected to get into your reservoirs. So major impact.
Yeah. Absolutely, absolutely, and I'm just, we could just go on and on probably about types of companies that are, but maybe what we could. I do have an interesting question and about we I kind of touched on a little bit about greenhouse gases and all this and I see a lot of funds now concentrating on the environment
Yeah.
and reduction of those greenhouse gases. Do you think this trend will continue, and how does the digitization of the energy sector contribute to this
Mm.
to this trend? And I don't think I personally don't think it's going anywhere. I think it's going to increase, and I'm so glad personally for my son to see this um, to see this happen, so he has a world that he could live in.
Yeah.
But curious from your perspective, if you think this will continue from a
Yeah.
funding perspective.
I believe this will and must continue. So if you think about what we are dealing with, these are one of the biggest problems what we are facing, our generation and the younger generations will be facing. So it would be completely irresponsible if we didn't do anything about it, and if you can influence it. And as myself being a great believer in tech, so I believe that finding out these solutions is our mission. So that we can work on the issues, and it's of course much bigger issue than just looking at the energy. So we are dealing with the transportation sector, we are
Yeah.
dealing with the agricultural sector, so we are dealing with construction sector. So we have much broader areas and which are really need to have solutions for. So I think it will be not just that it's important for the nature, but also in terms of solving the real issues in the world. So you are really doing not just the vitamin, but you're doing something which is crucial. And then of course what I believe is having the financial impact will be, of course, the end result of
Yeah.
doing something which is so meaningful and is really of high demand and expected of the players in the different sectors. So that's what I see. So from that perspective, I do believe it will continue, and I do believe it's going to be also from the investment perspective.
Yeah. It's like every time I turn around, I feel like there's a new fund that is concentrating on it. I think it's amazing. To your point, and it's not that it's necessary, to your point. It's something that has to happen. Not fully for us, for, like you said, the future generations. So
and it's super interesting that we can actually do something about it. So us being in this kind of role, so it's fantastic.
And digital, and to your point, the AI, all these digital technologies that are coming out today, energy consumption reduction, even from, like we talked about, water, and kind of leads me in, because we've only got a couple minutes left, but talking about smart cities and how does that kind of run into the smart city sector? Because I feel like, smart cities we're here, but I feel like we're not here.
Yeah, exactly. And a lot of work still for us to do, right?
We have a lot more work to do. Exactly. So maybe we could just give some final thoughts to the startups that may be listening to us, if there's any final words that we might want to give to them. I think we've talked about, is there anything that you would like to relay, that when they're talking to an investor like yourself, that would be helpful for them to know?
I think one of the things which all of the investors, we always say, regardless of the sector, is the team. So focusing on the building up the great team, because any sectors, but this particular topics, of course, they are so difficult. So being able to really have you need to be super smart. You need to be very diligent to hit the milestones, and you need to have the passion to what you're doing. So that's the crucial thing. The team is, we are the people, and people are the ones who make the change.
Absolutely. And we at Butterfly feel like team is right out there. I mean, we look at a lot of the similar type companies that you might look at. But we invest so early, and sometimes we're the first investors in, even from an institutional perspective. So we don't have a whole lot to go on sometimes, because there may not be a commercial product yet. There may not even be a POC yet. So a lot of times the only thing that we can entrust in is the team, the technology, if there is a technology at that point, and the market. If there's a market for it, then we can kind of walk through the three pillars, if you will, and see if we can work with them. So, but I think that's all the time we have today, Terhi, and it's been a pleasure to speak with you, and I hope that this has been educative for those who have joined us today, and wish that everybody has a pleasant evening.
Thank you so much.
Okay.
Bye-bye.
Thanks. Bye-bye.